So let me see if I understand this correctly. Both Godzilla and Ultraman get super popular revivals from Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, and then the very next project to follow is an animated feature released on Netflix. That is weirdly coincidental. Hey everyone, it's Alexander Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for Ultraman Rising, which is a Japanese and American co-production between Netflix and Tsuburaya Productions. The movie follows Ken Sato, a Japanese baseball player who has had a pretty successful career in America, but decides to return to Japan to play for the Giants. He also has a side gig where he is Ultraman, basically fighting giant monsters, and this is pretty much a lineage in his family. His father was Ultraman as well. One night, a giant monster interrupts Ken's first major baseball game back in Japan, so he has to fight the monster, but in doing so, he comes across the monster's egg. It hatches, the baby imprints on him as Ultraman, thinking that Ultraman is its mother. So Ken pretty much has to look after this giant baby monster, while also trying to focus on his career as a professional baseball player. So I had heard about this movie a few months back, and originally I didn't have plans to actually watch it for myself, mainly because Netflix movies are very hit or miss. They could either be really good or really bad, and for me, unless a movie's playing in theaters, I need to know if it's really worth my time to watch something like this at home. But I was a massive fan of Shin Ultraman from a couple years back, and once this movie came out and actually got really good word of mouth, and I'm talking about fantastic word of mouth, I thought, okay, I'll give this a watch myself because I loved Shin Ultraman, I really do love giant monsters, so let's see what Ultraman Rising is about. And I will say this right off the bat, I might be talking out of my ass because I'm still a casual Ultraman fan, but I feel like this movie does for Ultraman what Spider-Verse and Mutant Mayhem did for Spider-Man and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is a fantastic movie, not just for Ultraman, but just for animated movies in general. It looks absolutely gorgeous. It has a very unique animation style that is clearly American, but you can definitely feel hints of Japanese animation in there. The color palette is just spectacular. This movie just takes advantage of every single color possible. And the action scenes kick a lot of ass. There's some really dynamic fight scenes and some really great battles. The great animation also applies to the really great character designs. They're very unique, very creative, and the characters themselves are really good. Ken Sato is the main character in this movie, and the best way to describe him is he's pretty much the Tony Stark of baseball players, where he's egotistical, he's arrogant, he's kind of a playboy, but he has a side gig as a superhero. Except unlike with Tony Stark, Ken Sato is pretty much an arrogant prick even while he's Ultraman. One of the great things about this movie is just watching this character not necessarily get his comeuppance, but learn some humility when he has to take care of a giant kaiju baby. And the baby in question is really adorable. It's very cute, it has some funny moments. One of those funny moments in particular is when the baby is dancing, but she's doing Godzilla's victory dance from Invasion of Astro Monster. That was really neat. Again, I consider myself to be a casual Ultraman fan, but is this probably the closest the series has ever gotten to the Ultraman equivalent of Son of Kong or Son of Godzilla? Even though the baby in this movie is female, so I guess it would be the daughter of Ultraman. Let me know in the comments if you're a hardcore Ultraman fan. But all the stuff with the baby and Ken Sato is pretty great. And not only does Ken Sato have to learn humility by taking care of the baby, but he also has to rekindle his relationship with his father, because earlier in the movie, they established that the two of them had a falling out involving Ultraman, and I won't say much else beyond that, but the story about father and sons basically rekindling their relationship is very well done in this movie. Even the villain of the movie has some sympathetic moments to him, because when he's first introduced, he is a hard-ass leader of the Kaiju Defense Force, basically the group that goes around killing giant monsters as they invade the city. And when you get further into his story, you truly understand why he has a hate for the giant monsters and an even bigger hatred for Ultraman. And you're like, wow, you're not like a villain trying to take over the world or anything. You just are doing your job. And I kind of feel sympathy for you. Like, it sucks what you went through, and I can't fault you for that at all. For me, I think this is one of, if not the best version possible of the sympathetic villain. Because if you look at a villain like Killmonger or Thanos, yeah, they've had a tragic background to them, and there is some sympathy to those characters, but at the end of the day, their actions are horrific. They are planning to commit genocide on a mass level, and I'm like, yeah, I feel sympathy for you, but I can't get on board with what you're doing. With the villain of Ultraman Rising, he's not really genocidal. I mean, maybe for the giant monsters, sure, but, you know, giant monsters are always going to keep popping up no matter what. So there's always going to be an endless supply. Yeah, it was really well done. I didn't expect the villain aspect of the movie to be as good as it ended up being. If I had any complaints, and this might be more of a nitpick than anything, I think the main kaiju of the film, Gigantron, is a little too generic. And being that this is an American-Japanese co-production, this kaiju, while cool looking, looks very much like a medieval dragon. It looks like the dragon from Sleeping Beauty that Maleficent turns into. And you could clearly tell that it's an American creation, whereas two other monsters show up in this movie from the original show. One of them being Naranga, who popped up in Shin Ultraman a couple years ago. And when you put these two kaiju side by side, it's very clear which one was designed by the Japanese and which one was designed by the Americans. Again, it's a nitpick, and I admit right off the bat that it's a nitpick, and it's not going to ruin anyone's enjoyment of the movie, because Gigantron is still a really cool, slick design nonetheless, and her battle scenes between Ultraman are really cool. In the end, Ultraman Rising ended up exceeding my expectations. This was far better than I could have ever imagined an Ultraman Netflix movie being. Probably because I had a bad experience with the Godzilla anime trilogy, and I'm halfway through Gamera Rebirth, and right now, it's just not really doing much for me. I'll review that show one day because I'd love to talk more about Gamera, but Ultraman Rising is just a lot of fun. It's very heartfelt, very creative. While this movie may fall into some familiar trappings that other superhero movies have fallen into, it's still a unique enough experience that I say worth seeing in your lifetime. Even if you've never seen Ultraman, if you know nothing about this character at all, you don't need to. Like I said at the beginning of this review, this movie did for Ultraman what Into the Spider-Verse and Mutant Mayhem did for their respective franchises, and I mean that in every sense of the word. I recommend you check it out. It's a shame that this movie can't be seen in theaters because I think it's so gorgeous that seeing it in theaters is the way to go. But right now, it's just Netflix and definitely worth your time. And there you go, that's my review for Ultraman Rising. I hope you enjoyed it. Now before I go, I want to give a special shout out to my YouTube members in the starter pack. If you want to get early access to all of my videos and hopefully some more perks and tiers in the future, you can sign up via YouTube memberships on this channel and help support the channel even more. So thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you to my YouTube members right here. Until next time, I want to know what you guys think about Ultraman Rising. Whatever your opinions are, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell button to get notifications. If you want to help support the channel even more, you can do so via YouTube memberships, and you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Letterboxd, Threads, and my theme park and travel channel right here on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video, but until then, have a good day and take care of yourselves.